Hey everyone, welcome to second episode of On the Same Page Lore Dump with Friends. I am joined by a friend today who just keeps following me from project to project, whether it's mine or theirs or Art's or anyone else's. I feel like we've played like 5 or 6 games straight at this point, with two other ones in the works coming up soon.
Wow.
But with that, Jhevaunte, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners?
Howdy, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binary findies, and hellions of all walks of life. My name is Jhevaunte. I am a TTRPG storyteller, player in pretty much, yeah, almost every game that you have been involved in. I've also been involved in. An aspiring voice actor and a once and now coming back to starting to do writing again. So I'm in a lot of things, and I enjoy all the things that I do.
Oh yeah. So first question, before we like to kick us off, why don't you tell everyone about like how long you've been in tabletops, what got you into them, and then like just how that evolved to the point now where you're starting to write for them, do APs, all that kind of fun stuff.
So my involvement with tabletop was weird. When
Mm-hmm.
I first started was 3.5
Okay.
with D&D, but I didn't play. So I would go to the game stores. I was like really young. I would go to the game stores. I would see people playing and I would attempt to join, but I'm not good at math and 3.5 edition D&D is just bet it's not as crunchy Pathfinder, but it's still math. So I didn't get it, didn't get the character idea, didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but Barnes and Noble and Hastings have Vampire the Masquerade books. Bought those. Got obsessed with Vampire. Uh, Jump to fifth edition comes out. Tried to play fifth edition and try to play Pathfinder, but I'm a role player, not a gamer, and at the time, not a allowed thing really.
Mm-hmm.
But still played Vampire, still play World of Darkness. Started to grab other TTRPGs, played like kind of play those off and on. Um, this is where Mercer Effect is good. Coming into 2018, 19-ish,
Mm-hmm.
my friend introduced me to Critical Role while I was just doing like Grubhub for a living. Um, and then that sparked in me to like, oh, you could just role play. You could just have fun with role play and just
Mm-hmm.
do that. Uh, joined a couple groups to do just D&D. Um, And I didn't get into doing like actual plays and stuff until fairly recently. I think it was maybe only 2 years ago that I did a game, which was with Time Lord's Wife. I did the all monk one shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I joined that on a whim of like, I'm not gonna get cast. I'm not a name, whatever. I'm not doing anything. But yeah, got cast into that, got hooked into it, applied to like 50 other things directly after that. It was like, I want more of that because I have to have my theater degree mean something. So,
Fair.
yeah. Uh, and I think from there it was just like, oh, I can do this. Like, this is a fun thing I can
Yeah.
do. I'm gonna do more of that.
Yeah, I think and then it just snowballed from there because then we were all me, you, and Ark were all in the Coyote and Crow thing, and
Yeah.
then we was talking about Power Rangers, and then they released the system, and then we're like, oh, okay.
The hilarious thing about that is that at the time that they had talking about the system, I've been playing a Power Rangers game
Mm-hmm.
before I got invited to do our Power Rangers game.
Mm-hmm.
So I was already like, I want to do this. This is awesome. And I think we are in the most Power Rangers TTRPGs. Like,
I mean, yeah, we had Arkanites for a year and a half, then we ran Fey Rangers for 9 episodes, and then we have Stormstrike coming up here soon.
yeah,
Plus the PvP one if you applied for that one that he's Art's doing as well. Plus, I
yeah.
may or may not have another Power Ranger idea for the future.
So so yeah, so now we're just the people known for doing like Power
Yeah.
Ranger stuff, which is great.
Yeah, I think we're like known players, and Art is the Gridmaster at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's Power Rangers is just such a fun system because it's like it's set up pretty much like D&D with the skill dice.
Mhm.
It's just skill dice instead of skill points, but still the same type of build
Yeah.
features.
The same
Um,
vibe.
but yeah, like D&D, Pathfinder, even Power Rangers, or what's the actual system? The Renegade system? I forget what it's. There's a
Yeah.
name for it. But all those system, all the Essence system, all those
Mhm.
systems are very crunchy and they do
Mhm.
have a lot to them. So I think if people want to get in a tabletop and they see those games and it's not really their vibe, they might not see how you can really role play within those.
Mhm.
Um,
I mean,
but
it's what turned me off of Pathfinder for a long time. It still has me
yeah,
on Pathfinder in general.
I like Pathfinder more just because my favorite thing as a player is character creation,
Yeah.
and Pathfinder is very, very in depth for character creation.
Pathfinder's character creation is one of my favorite
Yeah,
in TTRPGs of all time. I just wish that the actual game reflected how
yeah.
good the character creation is.
Running Pathfinder though, like I can do it, and I enjoy it if it's I have a group that enjoy
Mhm.
crunchy mechanics, but it's like it's a lot more.
Yeah.
Like I got through a Starfinder campaign mostly because Isabel literally memorized the rules, so I never had to look anything up. I had like a side GM. It made my job so much easier.
Pathfinder to me has like two specific subsets of fans that play the game
Hmm.
that you might understand what I say when I say this, which is that you either have Dragon Age fans or Elden Ring fans, which is you are either super into the story, regardless of how the gameplay mechanic is, so you
Yep,
will be deep into that and it won't matter, or all you care about is the gameplay mechanic.
that is fair. But to be fair, I am optimistic about the gameplay for Dragon Age Veldar. It
Oh
looks
yeah,
dope.
it
They're
looks
turning
awesome.
their, it's no more a turn based because even Inquisition was turn based. They just hit it a little bit more in the
Turn
game.
based,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
still pretty much turn based, but this feels more kind of like how Mass Effect's combat is with
Hmm.
the three. With just not just with like you only having three people in your party, but also just like the speed of combat and the way
The
it looks
action
in it.
RPG
Yeah, it
element as
looks more
opposed to.
action based.
Mhm.
And it looks like the skill trees are a lot more diverse because I think they did a road during the gameplay test, and it was
Yeah.
like they had like a thunder strike ability. I was like, wait, they're not a mage though. Wait, what? What was
I'm
this?
just I'm just here for being able to begin play as good looking designed people of color
Oh
characters.
yes, that and like the character design option would be so good. They have multiple voice options for all genders.
Mhm.
They literally have trans and non-binary gender options in the game. They finally have good long hair.
Yeah. Oh my
Inquisition, god
god.
damn, the women's hair in Inquisition was fucking horrible. There's like no choices. You pretty much have to put your hair in a bun because that's literally the only thing
Mhm.
that looks somewhat decent. It's so bad. But yeah, I'm very excited that they took those comments in and are really, really gonna build on it. Sorry guys, this is just a
But
Dragon Age podcast now.
we're just talking about games now. Yeah.
No, but yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying with Pathfinder though, because yeah, a lot of people will either play because they're like, oh, there's so much depth here that we can create stuff and we can really dive into creation and stuff. But there's also just so many people that like loved their crunch of 3.5. So when D&D split off to Pathfinder,
Mhm.
they're like, yeah, I'm sticking with this system. I like building complicated shit, and I'm gonna,
Which is
which is
completely
fine.
fine.
Yeah, it's
Like
completely
I
fair.
the only time I will ever argue against a Pathfinder fan like liking Pathfinder is, and this is I think an issue I have with just people in general in the TTRPG space of, if you like a system purely because it's not D&D, I take so much umbrage with it,
Yeah,
because you don't like the system. You just like that it isn't the system you don't like, which
yeah, that's stupid. Like you did not
learn
like
to
D&D, but
appreciate
there's
stuff.
so
Yeah.
many systems out there.
Oh geez. Like we played Daggerheart, and Daggerheart really quickly became one of my favorite game
Yeah,
systems.
Dagger was fun. It's very much D&D light. I feel like the way it's
Yeah.
set up with some of the mechanics of Power by Apocalypse, which I think they credit both in the and we
Mhm.
pulled stuff. Which I think a lot of game systems that come out now just kind of grab stuff from everything because as long as you're not doing any sad stuff, it's not none of it's really like IP locked in the mechanic wise.
And there's also only so much you can do with dice.
Yeah, really. Um, but yeah, I really liked how Daggerheart was set up. It was really
Mhm.
fun. I feel like it was really fluid and the abilities weren't like super overpowered. Um,
Daggerheart is the story comes first game, which I
yeah.
like a lot,
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love combat, and I will build into that if I decide to build a combat-based character.
frankly.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Frankie was that. Yep, that was Frankie. Um, but at the same point, like even if I build into the combat, it's always a story reason for it. Like Frankie
Mhm.
is the son of Tom, or not son, the nephew of Tommy Oliver,
Yeah.
legacy of the greatest Power Ranger to ever Power Ranger, and has that martial arts background in his family. Of course, I'm gonna build his fucking combat stats crazy high.
Oh yes,
There,
absolutely.
it'd be stupid not to. But at the same point, like if I made If I would have went another direction, made like I don't know Billy's son or nephew or something, it would have been a totally different character.
Hmm.
They would have had maybe like D2 in combat at best. So it just like there's so many fun options. I don't really. It's rare that I play a balanced character, just
It's not well,
because
it's not fun.
yeah,
Like
like
I
I think of a concept, no matter what system is, I think of like, okay, what do I want this character's like not even personality, but like their kind of like vibe to be, and then I'm like, okay, well, how can I make that with this
Mhm.
system? And then I just kind of snowball from there, whether it's D&D or whether it's just like Powered by Apocalypse or something even simpler than that. Like, it's just the best way to do it. I feel like.
it's the we've asked one question. If it's the I think it's
Hey, I
the
mean, I'd rather ask just the one question and then not to ask questions. That's perfect.
yeah, but it's the it's a I've had an argument with a friend of mine on my own server about this, but it's
Mm-hmm.
the I would so much rather build a like complete garbage tier character that is not optimized at all
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to have fun playing this character and other people are going to have fun interacting with the character as opposed to a character that can do everything
Exactly.
because it's not fun for me to have a lack of a challenge to the character.
No,
Or if
it's.
I'm going to lean into like, okay, this is the optimal thing, I'm going to find a way to screw with it. So like
Mm-hmm.
pyromancer sorcerer in D&D is a very powerful class. I'm going to build it with a water genasi who only uses the spells like if I have items that I can cast a spell with specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because I wanted to make a joke of firewater being whiskey, everything that they used to cast a spell with was like whiskey bottles.
I love
So if
that.
I ran out, I wasn't doing
I
spells.
love flavor so much. I've
Flavor's the
flavored
most,
everything.
it's so fun.
My first ever character in Westmarch didn't allow artificers. My character was an artificer. Every
Mhm.
spell was a gadget. It would piss them off. I'm like, well, it's I'm still just doing the spell. I mean, you can't tell me how I'm like describing it. It's still doing the spell. I don't know what to
It's
tell
the
you.
exact thing I'm doing. It's just I'm going to say how it's going to be done.
Like my spiritual weapon was like a drone. I
That's
like rolled
awesome.
a ball out and then it grew like spider legs and would just scramble over and like attach to people and attack them. It's great.
That's awesome.
Eventually, we took that character into a different server, and then he became artificer. I had to remap his whole character sheet and made him an artificer.
I have to change all of you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. Shout out to Gale, my first ever character. Where I don't like Gale in Baldur's Gate because Gale is also a wizard from Waterdeep. That white man stole my idea.
Just like
Just like a white
just
man.
like the white man taking all our stuff.
Yep. So nothing personal, Gale from Baldur's Gate, but I hate you with everything in my being. And I have killed you in my Dark Urge run.
I'm too nice. Do you have the do you, I don't know if you have the exact same thing that I do of like I can't do evil runs in my games at all.
I've never done a full renegade run of Mass Effect. I've trired
I
so
can't
hard.
do a
I
full
can't
renegade.
do it.
Oh,
The amount of times I've
I
started
don't want
one
to
and
feel
then
bad.
I can do paragate at best, and by that it's usually like the options like punch the reporter. I always kick that one dude out the window in the second game,
Yeah,
and like
because
there's a
it
couple
just
other
makes
options.
things so much
But even
better.
then, I do some of those options during my Paragon run, so it's like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So renegade run, list evil full
I'm
evil runs, unless the character I'm doing is like,
hmm
okay, this is an evil character. Like if I'm in Star Wars: The Old Republic and I'm doing a Sith Inquisitor, I'm only choosing dark side options.
I do that to an extent. I did the one where you get the Twi'lek as like your slave at first.
That's fair.
I was always nice to her. I could never
Oh yeah,
be mean to
I
her.
will immediately be nice to her. If it's a close character, I'm like, all right, I'll be light side because
Yeah.
I like you. But like everything else,
Well,
no, I'm
Star Wars:
good.
The Old Republic, I don't feel like does the whole shit that good because like if you're a Sith and
Mhm.
you go good side, it's not like you're good. It's just like you're pragmatic.
Yeah,
If you go full evil, you're just insane. And then
you're ruthlessly insane.
on the other
Yeah.
side, you're either a pacifist if you go full Jedi, or you're
Mhm.
just trying to be realistic if you don't. You're not even dark. You're just like, but guys, we need to actually do stuff. We need to
There's
react. Like we need to actually
I
work
feel like
towards
there needs
stuff.
to be I feel like there needs to be games that when they do morality choices, because they feel like there's two sides of the morality choices for games. There's
Yeah,
either like
it needs to just be there
pacifistic or
needs to be like a
realistic, or it's
wheel or a
yeah.
spectrum of it. It can't be this or that. Because nothing's that in life. Nothing's fucking. You know how many spectrums I'm on?
Yeah. And this isn't even a recent phenomenon because, like, Knights of the Old Republic, it was like any dark side choice was like you kick a puppy and shit in a sand dune. Like, okay, this. How about we just? What is why?
That's why when I play Star Wars online, I can never do a full Sith or Jedi run because they're both just the extremes of good and bad. And it's just like
Mhm.
no one's like this. No one's fully like this. Come on now, like
No,
this is no. It's so
no.
stupid.
It's actually why Baldur's Gate was really refreshing to me. Of like,
Oh
oh
yeah,
no,
it's
there's evil
so
characters that have good intentions, and then there's good characters that have very evil modus
that's
operandi,
the
and you
those are
can play
the
in a gray area.
best characters. I feel like the villain that you can relate to, like Killmonger and Black Panther one.
Hmm.
Besides me being obsessed with Michael B. Jordan, that's a whole nother
A
concept.
completely fair
Um,
obsession.
but like that character had such a good reason for everything.
Oh yeah,
Bombing the world probably wasn't the best
ah,
action to
no.
take, but like their premise behind everything was so good, and I feel like that's the best way to make villains. Like,
Mhm.
sure, there's moments you can throw a chaotic, just kill everyone character like Galactus or Voldemort or whatever other
There are
characters, but
there are characters where it's like I 100% understand like the reason for your motivation, but you're going
mm-hmm,
about this the wrong way. Baldur's Gate 3 as an example. Gortash to me is a great villain
mm-hmm,
because he's so slimy and conniving, but as soon as you learn about him, you're like, okay, I get it.
yeah.
But like, fam.
My favorite kind
But
of
on the
villain
other
to
end, like
do,
Raphael.
my favorite kind of villain to do is to have a big bad evil guy who is just chaotic. They're just evil for evil's sake, all that stuff. But to have their first in command
Mhm.
be that kind of like they have a reason why they're here in this group. Well, they have an agenda, and they might seem like if you talk to the person for a while, you might be like, wait a second though, because then it's just
Yeah.
like you have agenda within these whole evil side that like yeah they're pushing this agenda and they're going to help this person who wants to just destroy everything. But there's this guy who's like you can relate to within that camp, and it's just like, but why is he there then? What is going on? Type thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's villains are fun. Villains are. It's why I keep. I think I've said so many times every time I'm in like a playthrough of somebody, they're like, session, we're ending our campaign. I have a new one coming, and I'm
Hmm.
constantly like, hi, do you need someone to play your villain character for just like a small? I can do that because it's the fun part of every. It's as another storyteller
Yeah.
playing the
If
villain.
you ever need me to come in and play a villain, Jhevaunte, I'll do it.
It's
Like
it's
playing just
fun.
like sleazy, like toxic masculinity villains are my favorite thing to do. I
Oh
just
my
pull on
god.
all that shit trauma from growing up, and it's so easy to do and slip into, and it's I feel like it's become so like
It's very
twisted.
freeing. It's very freeing to play a villain,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
it's very joyful to do that, which is so funny because I can't do that in like a video game.
I totally like. Spoiler: there is an X-Men game going to be coming out on my channel at some point in the next few months that Jhevaunte is also in because Jhevaunte plays in all my games, but I really want to have people guest as Marvel characters
Please.
because you guys are making your OCs, but like I want to have occasionally just like if there's a certain arc and I'm like, hey, well this person would be really good to play this Marvel person, bring them in and just let them go crazy. Because then
Mhm.
I get to watch, and then it's good to see how they interact with your group, and it'll be great.
Like Red Panda should play Colossus.
Oh, I could see that. I don't know where Colossus is in my role yet. He's not a teacher at my X-Men,
Mhm.
so we'll see.
He's only a teacher, like certain.
I just gotta get a hold of Channing Tatum to have him come in and play Gambit.
Oh,
Be like, yeah,
I. It has to be someone that can actually do a Creole accent.
yeah.
I
I
will.
do
I
have
will
him. I
fight
do
people.
have him cast as my. I fan casted everyone is in going to show up, and he is one of the teachers. So I gotta start working on my Channing Tatum Cajun accent.
I will fight people on Cajun accents as a Cajun boy. I will fight
Yeah.
people on that shit. Well, I'm actually really happy that he did an accent really well.
Well, to be fair, he's been playing that kid character since he was a kid. That's like his
Yeah,
that's his fixation. He was like, I'm so happy for him because every time you see him talk about it or play through stuff of it or do clips, he's so fucking happy.
he's so happy. He's
He's
like, I
like a
did
kid.
that.
He did an interview with I think it was Jimmy Fallon. He's like, yeah, we had a scene where like we came out of the minivan and we were just all dressed up and lined up, and I looked around and like, holy shit, there's Wolverine and
Mhm.
there's Electra, and I'm here. What the fuck? This is like high stakes play pretend, and I love this so much.
I really do kind of miss this. It's why again why I really love and have it captured into like actual plays and TTRPGs with people that like role playing, because there's from the acting standpoint, like as soon as you leave theater
Hmm.
and you try to venture into the wider world of acting, there are so few people that just kind of let the little kid in.
Yes, that's why I love. I can't remember her name, but the one that plays Kamala Khan in Miss Marvel,
Oh,
because
she's
she's
so
a
good.
legit fangirl. Like she
Yeah,
actually is obsessed, and you can see it in the character that it comes through. As much people
there
want to
are
shit
there
on
are
every female Marvel character because most of the fan base sucks, but
there are actors that even especially in the MCU that like
mhm. just
became that character so much. Like I'm so
yeah,
happy that they got to do that.
I don't know how RDJ is going to be doomed. Like I want to see the spin on this because like he is Marvel and has been Iron Man and carried Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe for so long. You're gonna bring him back as a completely different character after his sacrifice? Like,
The
how are you
the
doing this, fam? Like, what are we doing here?
the question that I most have is I've never seen him play a villain, so I'm just like, how is this gonna go in general?
I hope that they do it because they're gonna do it one way or two ways. He's gonna be a variant of Robert Downey Jr. Or
Yeah,
I guess of Tony Stark who became Doctor Doom, which has happened in the
yeah,
comics in a couple
it's a
different
comics
versions. It
thing.
has been a thing. So they could go along those lines, especially with Spider-Man being one of the main characters going forward. He is going to be one of the leaders of the Avengers, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, to have him interact with Tony would
Hmm.
be such a strong moment because
Oh yeah.
I think they're saying that the Spider-Man movie now won't even be until after Doomsday. So that could set that up and then it could happen. But or it could be if they don't want to have the interaction, Doctor Doom doesn't have to take his mask off. I'm
Oh
just
no,
saying, like
no.
that never has
And
to happen.
I would almost prefer it not to.
Yeah, like if he's gonna actually be Doctor Doom, like the legit Victor Von Doom, then
Mhm.
he should not take his mask off at all.
I
And this
what
thing, if he's a variant, sure. If he's not a variant, I don't want to see his face.
I at least the one thing that they can give me is that if he's not okay, DC has its pettiest villain with Reverse Flash. Professor Zoom is
Love,
DC's
I'm a Flash
pettiest
fangirl. I
villain.
love fucking Professor Zoom, Reverse Flash. It's
He's
so petty. It's so fucking
so
petty. I love it.
violently petty. And on the Marvel side is Doom. Doom is the pettiest villain on the Marvel side, bar none.
I mean, yeah.
The dude helped birth, like, was there for the birth of Susan's firstborn,
Hmm.
just so that Reed Richards would not have the pleasure of looking at his firstborn child and know that it's his greatest rival that saw her first.
Yeah, that's wild.
Like, this is, he destroyed a universe in which it was like the one universe where he apologized to Reed for everything that he did. He destroyed that universe so that there would never be a universe where he would ever say sorry to Reed Richards. This is
I loved in the Flash show that like the way that he went back and killed the mom and stuff, then he had to literally create the person he hated. He had to make the Flash.
yeah.
Like I was like, oh, that's such the full
The,
circleness of all of
the
this.
only mark I have on the Flash show in general is their version of Red Death irritates me.
Yeah, I didn't like it either.
And it is only because like do more with that. Do more with the character. They actually have some cool shit. I know why you did it,
I know they
but
had to
like,
hold Barry back because it's a TV show, and there's only so much they can do restraint wise to keep it interesting. But like the amount of villains who are faster than him, or that just negate his speed, like it's everything. Like, it's just like I
I mean,
hate
there's
it.
also just like every villain that we have in here is a Speed Force.
Yep, it's
Like
just like
we,
the Flash. I'm the fastest man alive, as much as the plot lets me be.
mhm. Yeah, I'm the fastest man alive until we meet Reverse Flash, Godspeed, the Death Racer or whatever I think they
Yeah,
called
there
him.
was like five speedster villains at least.
I think the last season was just the Speedster villains.
I mean,
Just like
they had to end it with that the way the show went throughout
yeah.
everything. Better when they were doing like the half season stuff and they just brought on random ass shit. It got pretty convoluted towards the end. Not gonna lie, but I think
I
they ended
mean,
it good.
on the other end, you could have Green Arrow, who for me the only memorable character you had in there was Cody Rhodes playing the villain once.
Yeah, that was when Stephen Amell was having his whole WWE crossover shit. Um,
which he did in Ring of Honor, and then
I don't know.
they made him a Bullet Club shirt.
My favorite CW show is still Supergirl, and I hate how they ended it so abruptly. There's so much more they could have did there, I feel like, but that's a whole nother
My
discussion.
favorite
Um,
CW show is still Grimm, and nobody has watched that show.
yeah. I think we're already like almost 20, 30 minutes in. Might as well just get to your lore dump. I feel like we're gonna just keep talking anyway, so let's just dive into it. For
Waleed,
our
let's
lore
do
dump
lore dump.
segment of the show, Javante, what are we gonna talk about?
The subject that I know a lot about because I listen to way too many podcasts and have all the books for, which is Warhammer 40K. That I've constantly told you and Ark that I want to run a Warhammer 40K game with, and just never have the time to
I
do
know
it.
nothing about Warhammer, but I'm gonna play the fucking clown ladies that are really hot. I don't know what they're called. We're gonna play one of them.
Harlequins.
Yeah, I'm gonna play one of them. I'm gonna
Harlequins.
play one of those. I already have some Harley Quinn stuff for my Harley Quinn outfit. I'll just mesh it together. It'll be great.
You know what? Fuck it. We're gonna because you have their stuff. I'm gonna just talk about them for a second because I might as well.
Hell yeah.
Just lore dump. So the Harlequins are part of a race called the Eldar.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, 40K is just space fantasy. So you have humans, which are just fantasy humans, but in space with lasers. Eldar are space elves. They were created by things called the Old Ones, which nobody knows what they look like. They seeded the world with a whole bunch of races. Eldar were like the third race or so that they made.
Okay.
Um, they are incredibly immortal, super long lived. Uh, at one point, though, in their existence, they realized that they didn't want for anything. They could create all their own food. Death wasn't a bother to them because they could just come back and all their memories were there. Um, so they got bored. So they started doing more and more egregiously terrifying things in order to feel alive. So it was like, oh, I'll just kill someone on the street, and oh, that gives me a rush. Um, so it got consistently worse over the course of centuries to where they were just having like just the most heinous things possible every day until all that debauchery and violence birthed a chaos god called Slanesh, who popped into the world, uh, did the big suck, and took like 90% of
Hey
Eldar souls.
yo.
Yeah, 90% of Eldar souls just immediately into Slanesh.
Damn.
So now the Eldar are separated into three distinct categories. We have craft worlds, which are like we fear Slanesh greatly because if we die, we immediately our souls like immediately go to Slanesh. So we are looking for a way to stop that and also find our old gods to help with that fact. We save our souls by putting them into crystals, which is why we're craft worlders, uh, which we then use to power our armor and our mechs, which is cool. You have Dark World Eldar who take the reverse end of that and just go, yeah, Slanesh did this, but you know how we satiate Slanesh? By
Mm-hmm.
just doing the exact same things we did, but worse. They're space pirates. They're terrifying. They turn people into living furniture to sit on for eternity. They drink. They drink orphan tears. Like they're crazy. And then there's the Harlequins. The Harlequins worship a Eldar god called Segarach or
Okay.
Kekarach, Segarash, the Laughing God, as they call it. They are obsessed with telling of the story of the Eldar in plays and in acts. But they're also assassins. Their plays are death dances. They will pop into dimensions and tell the stories and kill everyone around them that is a part of the tale, and then leave. Nobody knows where exactly they go to
Mm-hmm.
because their little pocket dimension is made by Segarash, and he doesn't talk to anybody. Their weapons are awesome. Hold on while I pull up the name of one of them. Oh, Quinn. Where do you get these? There we go. They are, yeah, the Harlequin Armory, because all Eldar are weebs and have weeby weapons,
Mm.
like shuriken launchers. Uh, very specifically for the Harlequins, all of their war gear are called lethal arts. Their masks are called death masks. They have hollow suits. So the Harlequin's kiss is essentially their uh, their main gun.
Hmm.
It's a close quarter weapon, only effective in close combat. It's a monofilament wire that when they punch the gun into somebody, it releases the wire through their body, and then
Oof,
they just pull it out.
that's disturbing. Love that.
The Harlequin, all the Harlequin stuff is just like I'm just gonna leave you like a little, like the end of a saw trap, which is so cool. Lore wise, they're awesome, and then they have like a unit. I think they legit have one unit you can buy for them, which is so sad because that's the Games Workshop MO of like,
Hmm.
oh, these guys are cool. How many things are there? A thing. Can't even make an actual army with them.
Damn.
Uh,
Oh, I know that
Harlequins.
if you run a Warhammer game, I don't know what weapons are available, but I want a mallet. I mean, I
Oh,
just want a mallet. That's the one
yeah.
thing I want. Like completely like twice their size.
Oh, please. So many weapons. I think it's like one of the funniest things is like the main weapon of 40K that everyone knows about is the bolter. Uh, in actuality, a regular person couldn't shoot a bolter because a bolter is the size of a rocket launcher.
Gotcha.
It's the main weapon of a space marine.
Who
They
are like
shoot,
crazily augmented and shit with
yeah,
power
they're
armor and
like
everything.
an average space marine is like 8 feet tall,
Yeah, makes sense.
but like it's a bolter is it shoots a missile. It shoots a rocket propelled bullet that explodes on contact.
Hmm.
So because like everything that depicts it in shows, it's just like, oh, it looks like a big machine gun. It's just a giant machine gun that shoots out rockets. Space Marines can wield a bolter or a heavy bolter if you're like me and enjoy shooting 200 rounds per second. Uh, or storm bolter, which is an Uzi version of the bolter. And then if you're dope pilled like me and play Carcharodons, you don't use any long range weapons because you're going to put the fear of the God Emperor into people and just run around with a power fist or a chain sword or a chain axe.
Love that for you.
Like the weapons of 40K are so wild, but I love that there's some that just like get names. Uh Angron, who's the Primarch, like the big guy for the World Eater Space Marines.
Hmm.
He has two chain weapons, which is uh give me this. Seminarius and Spine Grinder.
Okay.
So give me your war gear, boyo. Yeah, the daemon weapon, Seminarius, is his sword. It takes its name from a Slanesh demon who bragged so greatly of their skill in combat that it pissed off Angron. So Angron picked up a piece of metal and beat the demon to death with it so violently that it forged the metal into a sword, which trapped the demon's soul inside of it.
Christ.
Spine Grinder is a chain axe that was made on a Dark Mechanicus planet, the Mechanicum being the tech guys. They're the tech priests that make all the stuff. Dark
Hmm.
Mechanicum work for Chaos. They essentially spent like 10 years working on this chain axe that would never like it would never loosen its edge. It would never like run out of power.
Okay.
And they gifted it to Angron, who responded in kind by murdering everyone on the planet that made the axe to
Hmm.
Christian the Blade, which is
Damn.
so based.
I
There's
love that
way
so
too many
much.
stories of that. Like my favorite chapter of All the Space Marines is a naval fleet called the Carcharodons,
Okay.
the space sharks. Um, the information on them is so vague because we don't know what founding they're from, which is what generation of Space Marines they are. First founding is Primarchs. Second founding is tend to be like chapter masters and who came after the Primarchs. Third founding are like the legacy chapters,
Hmm.
and then so on and so forth. We have no idea what part of the founding the Carcharodons are from
Okay.
because we don't like this is information that just nope, we don't have that. We don't know who their Primarch could be or who their we know who their chapter master is. We don't know who their Primarch is. So no idea on that one. They don't have a home planet to make more of their soldiers because they're fleet based. They travel from planet to planet, and if they need recruits for the Carcharodons, they'll take from the planet they just came from in something called a red tithe,
Hmm.
which is coincidentally the book that they're from. It's called that. They they don't really ask permission. They'll if they like, hey, we need people. Is this planet populated? We're going here to get people. And it's the like you're being recruited into the empire, don't resist.
Damn.
um their troops have two gene seed defects, which one makes their skin super pale and gives them very black eyes. That's the Carcharodon name.
Hmm.
The other is that they're very silent. They don't move when they're on their ships, like they just stand like statues on their ships,
Okay.
get off the ship when it lands. They murder everything that they're told to kill, and they just calmly get back on the ship and don't talk. Um, to the point that the longer you've been around as a Carcharodon, the less you say.
That's fair.
So like the oldest Carcharodons just don't talk at all. The chapter master, Tybero the Red Wake, um, he's too big. So chapter masters tend to be like maybe 9, 10 feet tall because they're the pinnacle of what a Space Marines is. Tybero's like 12 feet tall. He's nearly the size of some Primarchs. So he's massive, and he wears Terminator armor, which is the big, heavy, bulky Space Marine armor. It's designed for like heavy ordnance attacks. Um, there is art I'm going to send you
Please do.
of him walking in front, like walking up to a Space Marine. It is hilarious looking. Yeet.
Yeah, let me see if I can open this without it covering. I don't know where my. We'll find out. Nope, it was not over your face. Hell yeah. So the open Discord was like, wait, what
Yeah,
screen is this gonna pop up on? Oh, that looks fucking dope.
yeah, so he is way too big. He speaks in like a gravelly whisper, which sounds like his voice is almost like shredding as he talks. And he his face is horribly scarred, so he doesn't take off his helmet most of the time.
Hmm.
There's theories as to where they're from, which there's some that I follow along, which are like the most common theory is that it's a Raven Guard, which is the like a first founding chapter. It's a splinter of them that they just got their own name, which I partially think. The only thing that leads me to not think that is that the Raven Guard do not behave like Carcardons at all. The Raven Guard are like they're your spec ops. We're here to do stealth missions kind of guys.
Hmm.
The Carcharodons don't really use long range weaponry at all. They're purely close range.
Okay.
So doesn't really work for stealth missions if the thing that your entire group is known for is ripping through enemies and like leaving a bloody mess behind everywhere you go. The theory I subscribe to is there is a traitor legion called the Night Lords,
Okay.
who, when they worked for the Imperium, they were you dominate by fear. Like your entire role is to make everyone that fights you afraid of you so that they fall to the Empire faster. Uh, like the thing that they're most known for was a planet wasn't surrendering to the Imperium fast enough. So they warn the planet, like, if you don't surrender, we're going to do terrible things to you until you do. And they're like,
Hmm.
ah, lol, no, you aren't. And they sent like a fleet after them. They attacked the fleet, and then they brought that ship that sent the fleet like into low orbit. And the crowd's cheering because they're like, "Oh, yay, our guys are back!" And then they all the airlocks opened, and
Oh,
the skinned, flayed bodies just fell out of the airlock.
damn.
Like, oh, so that's the Night Lords. One of them, the chapter master, when they went traitor, he remained loyalist and he left the Night Lords with like a contingent of his own troops. And we don't know where he is. So my theory is that the Karkarodons are from the Night Lords chapter. It's just after so many years, this is the change that is enacted for them.
Gotcha.
Especially because they don't refer to the Emperor in the same way. Because I remember right, they call him the Wake Lord. They don't have a home planet that they go to because the Night Lord planet's destroyed. They're fleet based because I don't have a planet to go to, and it's a lot easier to not incur the ire of the Inquisition if I'm not in public space.
Hmm.
They're everything that they do is so like based around just making people terrified, and they're bordering on heretical in how they act. So it's like, yeah, they behave more like like an evil chapter than they do a good one. It's just that they happen to be working for the Imperium, which tracks. But again, these are all theories that are not going to ever get confirmed because the Karkarodons have like a model.
Hmm.
I think you actually can't play them on tabletop. I don't think that they are a playable like faction. They're just story, which is so frustrating.
That sucks.
Is There's a few things that are like that,
Isn't
like a lot of
Warhammer very almost like rock, paper, scissors? That's for like certain units beat certain units type of thing.
there's definitely units that are more powerful than others,
Hmm.
but I don't think that it feels rock paper esque. I think it's that you'll see a meta
Yeah.
and people
I
will play
mean,
into that meta.
that's with any type of game. There's always a meta.
Absolutely. But like the current meta would be like Death Guards. The Death Guard is overpowered, and the Death Guard is overpowered because they have a ton of health and they don't die. So they just constantly march forward and can take everything. And it's impossible to kill them because they're so tanky.
Mm.
So like they're in the meta. Custodes right now are super in the meta because they're one of the newest like ones that got updated. So all their stuff is really strong in comparison to everyone else.
Hmm.
But like as somebody that plays like Tyranids on the tabletop whenever I have the opportunity, the Tyranids are not a strong faction. It's just that I can get like 500 things.
Fair.
Like I'll play somebody that has like Tau because they hate themselves, and they'll have like 15 or so units on the field that are all long range and they're strong and they're good, but then I'm just fielding like 200 Tyranids
Mm.
and about even halfway through the points of the things that I can field on my team. And I'm just like, all right, so everyone here is just going to run to where you are,
Damn.
just full sprint, and you're not going to do a goddamn thing about it. I'm so excited for people to play Space Marine too, because the whole concept of a Tyranid invasion should look that terrifying because it's so much worse in lore, like how a
Mm.
Tyranid invasion happens. Because if the Tyranids show up to a planet, I do like that they didn't really do this in the game because that would make this almost impossible. But the planet hates this. That planet does not like the Tyranids are here because everything is connected to the warp,
Hmm.
and the Tyranids are what's called a shadow on the warp. They disrupt that. So the planet starts freaking out if the Tyranids show up. There's earthquakes, there's hurricanes, it starts cracking.
Damn.
If you are a psyker, which is somebody that is born with psionic abilities, you're born with those. It's really bad if you are born with those. Um, if you are a psyker and Tyranids show up, there is like an 80% chance that you will go insane because your connection to the warp that gives you these psionic abilities gets really fucked up. And you start hearing the several thousand chittering voices all connected to a hive mind, all in your head at the same time, and you have no idea what's happening. So several psychers just die on that planet. Then, if you're unlucky, uh, you won't see the invasion coming. If you're unlucky, because what this will mean is that if an invasion is going to happen and you don't see the landing party, it's because it's already happened. Because they'll send what's called a gene stealer, which is in my Magic the Gathering deck, is what a lot of my cards are,
Hmm.
which they'll pop in and they will essentially mimic a person and create a cult that's based on worshiping the Tyranids on the planet and bring in more and more people and essentially breed half Tyranids,
Mm,
which will then destroy the planet's government. Then the invasion happens. So by the time that the
gotcha.
invasion comes at that point, the planet's fucked.
Gives me very indoctrination vibes with Mass Effect and the Reapers. Like
Yeah,
they
the
have
whole
so much shit in place by the time they actually show up.
the gene stealer cults would be like the collectors,
Okay, makes sense.
very collectors esque.
Gotcha.
Um, my favorite thing is that the Tyranid invasion is happening. Say like that's occurring, and they're not
Hmm.
doing gene stealer cults; they're just coming down. If they stop and turn around, because that is a thing that has happened, where
Hmm.
the Tyranids are going to eat a planet and then they go and leave. That's a problem because the Tyranids don't eat a very specific planet, which are called tomb worlds. Tomb worlds are home to Necrons, which are in, I guess, for like Mass Effect, you probably say would be similar to Geth.
Hmm.
Um, they are fully cybernetic beings that are as old as the old ones.
Oh,
Uh, they have
okay.
hyper advanced technology because Warhammer fits the same mold of like everything from way before they started was so much better.
Hmm.
Uh, and they were born as things called the Necrontyr, which lived on a planet with two hyperactive suns, which essentially gave everyone on their planet cancer.
Damn.
Uh, so they all constantly were dying, and the older ones were immortal, and they were like, "Could you give us immortality so that we don't die?" And the older ones said, "No, lol." So there was a war called the War in Heaven, which was against the Necrons and the old ones. Which the Necron tier got their shit pushed in until they encountered the thing that was making their star overload, which is called a Satan, which is a star beast. The
Mm.
Satan also hate the old ones because the Satan hate most things. And they said, hey, we'll help you kill the old ones if you just do as we say. So the Necron tier said, sure, got it, by the order of their emperor called the Silent King Zarek. Uh, the old they didn't know that how they were going to do this was that they were going to essentially sell their souls to the Satan who ate them and gave them robotic bodies with something they called a necrodermis, which is metal, like a metal flesh,
Hmm.
uh, and made them slaves of the Satan until Zarek, who was the only one to not be made a slave, changed their coding and rebelled and destroyed most of the Satan by like capturing them.
Okay.
All the Necrons now live in these tombs to essentially await when they all would reawaken and retake over the galaxy. Zarek himself put himself on a self-imposed exile because he's like, I ruined my entire race, so I'm leaving to find myself again. He left and then found the Tyranid swarm in the vast reaches of the galaxy and went, oh fuck, and came right back. The Tyranids don't eat tomb worlds because they can't digest Necrons.
Mm.
So if you live on a planet and the Tyranid swarm stops and turns around, your planet's a tomb world, which may or may not mean that it's waking up,
Mm.
which probably means that you are, on the best case scenario, going to be enslaved to the Necrons.
Damn.
But since most Necrons are like, ah, oh, gross, flesh, ew, they'll probably just kill you. Like every Necron that is not, unless you're a flayed one, but like every Necron is just like, ah, organics, gross.
You know what? Fair.
Yeah, flesh, weird, gross, weak. They actually all have coding in their brains that makes certain words like taboo to them. Most of them being anything to do with organic processes. So, like bleeding, you can't say bleed as a Necron. It's against your code. It's a taboo to your coding.
Mm,
Excrement is a taboo to your coding. You can't say it. Um, you can. Your sensors just tell you not to.
gotcha.
But like they hate humans because they're like rats. They're filthy and they are everywhere. And you go away. You're mucking up our homeworlds. You're screwing up our empire. They really hate orcs. Um, but for a very different reason, because again, they've been around since the old ones. So they saw the creation of what the orcs were before
Hmm.
what they are now, which it's not a creative name. They were called the Quarks,
Hmm.
but they were like intelligent. They were warlords. They could speak eloquently. They had battle plans and strategies. So the Necrons remember fighting them. They're like, oh yeah, these were genuinely worthy foes. And now it's like, here's the orcs who are driving motorcycles headfirst into mines
Hmm.
because who gives a shit? Like, what? Who needs a battle plan? Battle plans are for losers. Only weak umis and not orcs do battle plans and strategies. The only strategy I need is to hit them really hard in the face.
I mean, sometimes
Or
that's all it takes.
my great strategy is, do you know how shooting them with DACA? It's to shoot them with more DACA. It's so they're like, yeah, you're no, you're so much not what we were. Like this is not even a fight anymore for us.
Yeah, it should be Prothean vibes. Because I mean,
Yeah,
I relate anything sci-fi about to mess, but it gives me
it's
vibes
fair.
of
It's
Javik when he comes out of stasis and he's just immediately like, wait, the fraud people evolved.
they used to eat flies.
They used to eat flies.
It definitely has that feel. Like thinking of like relating characters to Mass Effect, like the Necrons are very much the Protheans, especially with Javik being like Sarek.
Yeah.
Um, Orcs are Krogan. It's
Yeah.
so hard to not see them as Krogan, especially the like cause of death on Tuchanka used to be death by wildlife, and then they made guns and it was death by gunshot. Like that's Orcs.
Yeah.
It's that's in fact the only reason why gene stealer cults don't work at Orc society is that gene stealers tend to be passive. They tend to be very peaceful pacifists that talk things out.
Hmm.
And if you're a peaceful pacifist, also you tend to be pink skinned because the gene stealer cults, the Tyranids are pinkish.
Hmm.
So the orcs, think you look weird because you don't have green skin. That's weird. But also, you're not fighting. You're not trying to punch me in the face. I'm just gonna kill you. You're weird. Get out of here.
No.
It still fits with the weird color scheming thing with orcs of yeah, red makes you go faster. White is death because bones is white. Green is the best, so everything that's really good is painted green. Uh, and purple is stealth
Hmm.
because you've never seen a purple orc.
That's fair.
That is the thought process.
I love that.
Orcs are. I didn't talk about orcs at all, only because I think everything with orcs just has to be experienced. Of like, I'm reading a thing of like, what is an orc's like great? What are great things that orcs do? It's like, well, one discovered time travel. We're not sure how. They just did. So, and he found himself because he went back in time and he found himself, and then he shot himself because he wanted two of his favorite gun, which created a time paradox and erased him from existence, which completely screwed up the orc hierarchical structure.
My
And that's just
God.
a thing that happened that has zero explanation. It's like, oh, what are orc ships like? Well, they're not really ships. They just strap a bunch of crap onto an actual like meteor that's flying through space. And because every orc thinks that that's how it works, they can control the meteor's trajectory.
Hmm.
Because every orc thinks that's how it works. The best case scenario is if they do find a ship and they get it to move and they're fixing it. My favorite thing was that there's just a bunch of orcs outside of the ship in space, just like riveting in the windows to it. And an orc inside looks outside and goes, "Oi, you guys are gonna die out there. You're not wearing helmets. You can't breathe in space." And then every orc outside died because they just realized that they couldn't breathe in space.
Very Monty Python-esque.
I the orcs are every so like 40K, all their stuff is based around like real life-ish things.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the parallels of like, yeah, the Imperium is very Roman-esque and da da da. Like Necrons are Egyptian themed as fuck. Orcs are football hooligans.
Oh my god.
They are pure football hooligans, which is
That
like
tracks.
it's why it's like there's no racism with
It's
orcs. It's
immediately
just
think of the football hooligans from Eurotrip.
yeah, that's what it like. So like the best, like the greatest orc is Mag-Urk Thraka, the prophet of the Wa. It, but the joke in his name, because Games Workshop is, I think, British based,
Mm-hmm.
is he's Margaret Thatcher. Mag-Urk Thraka.
My
Margaret Thatcher.
god.
Yep. It's everything is on the nose.
That's
40K
hilarious.
and just Warhammer in general is so like on the nose with humor and idiocy. Like naming conventions, that out the fucking window. Hey, who's the leader of the Angry Space Marines? Angron. All right, that sure. I
My
got it.
god.
Makes sense. Go even into fantasy. Like, hey, what's the name of the Skaven that worship Nurgle? Oh, they're called Nurglings? Oh, I see. There's
My
no,
god.
it's just dumb. It's just stupid, but it's so fun, stupid.
No, I love that though. Made
I'm
sense too
going
for what it is,
I'm
for it to
going
be
to
that way.
send you, I'm going to send you two things, which is I'm going to send you what is a unit in 40K called a Great Unclean One.
Okay.
And then I'm going to show you uh the worst thing that somebody has ever made with it. So this is a Great Unclean One. This is a unit you can feel.
Okay, let's see. I hate that. Cool.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make it worse. So that's a Great Unclean One. Somebody's made a Great Clean One. Here you go.
I mm,
It's so much worse.
I hate it so
It's
much.
so much worse.
Oh my
But
god, yeah.
I think if I were, I guess, like rounding out my little just like me gushing about 40K, if ever I was to like place people into not so much chapters but like factions,
Mm-hmm.
um so Arc goes like immediately into Mechanicus.
Okay.
Instantly he's going to go into Mechanicus. Um you're going into Sisters of Battle like, so fast.
Not me immediately gonna go Google what the fuck they are. Oh.
This the Sisters of Battle are awesome, but no, you're going to Sisters of Battle. Um, I know that me as a little nerd boy, I would love to put myself into Space Marine, but no, because I know how I am as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going into the Guard, and if I were to pick a Guard group to go into, um, there is a very specific army called the Destroyan Firstborn,
Mm-hmm.
which probably is the group I would be a part of. Uh, because they're baller and also a little bit prim.
Really, really, Jhevaunte, they're just literally space nuns, pretty much.
Oh my god, the sisters are awesome.
Are you trying to say something? This is my handle.
No, no, let me clarify something. So the Sisters of Battle, which are the what everyone goes is like, oh, if you want female space marines, here they are. They're not, but like they have their orders. The orders of Sisters of Battle are very similar to the chapters for Space Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And they are all just like, hey, how far do you just want to go? How far do you, because there's an order that's like, we're dedicated to the purification of the emperor's enemies through holy flame. By that we mean burn every heretic alive. But like the Order of the Sanguine Heart, which is very much dedicated to like the healing properties,
Hmm.
and also, you know, just death and destruction with our versions of tanks and the lament engines. But the sisters are the most like, I think when like reading through their lore and just how they interact, they are some of the most human characters. They struggle so much, and like their version of like getting through those struggles is with others, like other sisters, which I appreciate because in the whole depth of 40K of like characters that just genuinely struggle, the only real ones that get a highlight of like the indomitable spirit of humanity isn't the giant fucking space marine who
Hmm.
was like carving through the Tyranids. It's the direct moment after where they are sitting on their ship talking to just a regular person,
Yeah.
like a regular human guard, and just being like, you get to go home to your family. Like, I don't get to do that. And that bothers me. And sisters have this same struggle of like, we are set above, but we are so much a part of humanity, and we don't know how to overcome that sometimes,
That's fair.
which I think is really cool. And that's the thing of 40K that I think a lot of people miss because a lot of fans only talk about the cool battles and the exterminatus machine and everything exploding and the memes, but like at the depth of it, there's so much story and lore to these characters and like a depth of how I am not a proponent of the humanity fuck yeah memes because it's like humanity is often like the worst characters in sci-fi stuff. But for 40K, the version of humanity, fuck yeah, is so based around like it's the indomitable spirit of humanity. It's the fact that they like we as a species fully are committed to our consistent survival in a place that will kill you. And it's keeping to that, and even like the most evil factions have
Hmm.
characters that are human, that the evil characters are like the best of us.
Yeah.
The world eaters, the ones that have stuck things into their brains to prevent them from feeling anything but anger. Their commander on their ship is a human, Latara Sarin. And their whole thing with her is like she is the best of us. She's the strongest, the smartest, the most like the one that keeps us in line. And her entire thing is like, my ship is my kid. You all are brats on my ship. Like, don't fuck with me. She has shot a world eater in the face. It didn't do anything because he's a space marine, but she shot him in the face to say, like, yeah, no, you did something that almost cost me my ship. Don't do that. Like that's the parts of 40K I like, of just the characters like actually just being characters and showing like, oh no, like they are, nobody here is invulnerable to feeling like crap. Everyone here is able to feel emotional weight, especially the characters that are put onto pinnacles as gods.
Hmm.
Every Primarch is put to the example of a demigod. You are a demigod. You are the child of the god emperor. Like, all hail you. And all of them are like, I don't feel like that. I got sent to a random planet, probably had a family on that planet, and then got pulled from there. Maybe that planet doesn't exist anymore because of reasons that I did something. And now I'm in a world where I am not like anyone except my other siblings, who half of them are evil.
Yeah.
Like,
Damn. Yeah. Well, with that,
yeah.
I think we'll leave it there. But yeah, that's a lot of lore, and I know there was a lot of lore behind it. But yeah, that was really interesting going through all that. But why don't you tell everyone where they can find you? And if you have any projects that you want to talk about, this will be air September 9th. So if you have anything coming up that isn't out yet you want to talk about, or if you want to just talk about set sail, which you probably will shortly, go at it.
Let's see. So we're doing twitch.tv/eclipse six
Start over.
eclipse dot. I do word money. I do word money good. twitch.tv/eclipse613. You can catch me on bi-weekly Thursdays, where I am a storyteller for Paige and a couple other awesome peeps, where we're doing a run through of One Piece 5e, which I get to just completely have fun with the anime world that I really like and make my friends cry.
You
Uh,
try. I say
I
that
tr
as it's not hard, but
yeah. Other stuff that I'm doing. Um, let's see. Stuff's coming up in September. We were just talking about Dragon Age. I'm going to be in a Dragon Age campaign
hell yeah,
shortly. I get to play as a Canary dad
you would be a
to a
canary.
to a bunch of gay elves, which is the best part. Uh,
I love that for you so much.
it's awesome, man. I'm having a great time. Um, let's see. Uh, I'm in a podcast where we're doing Public Access, which is a great horror game. If you like creepypastas, I don't know exactly where that airs, so I will eventually get back to y'all on that, and just I'll post about that on my social media, which is Twitter at Jhevaunte. Um, and yeah, we have it's September, so we're gonna have a World of Darkness game coming up soon. TM.
hmm
I don't
Recording
know
in
if it,
September. I don't think it'll air till December ish, but yeah.
that's fine. Uh, I definitely have projects coming up in October
hmm
because spooky month.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah,
I am. I don't know if you all know this, but I like horror games. So October is going to be very busy.
yeah. For some reason, I've been running a lot of horror games lately. I've just slowly been drifting into that realm. It's hard to get back out of it.
I'm gonna throw you a TTRPG that I think you'll like.
hmm
Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff that's coming up that I can't like off the top of my head say, but yeah, throughout the rest of the year, I'm gonna be busy again, which is great. I love
Awesome.
that.
Yeah. I will be throwing Jhevaunte socials in the YouTube description, the podcast description, all that stuff. So definitely go follow them everywhere, and mostly Twitter. That's what they use, and just
Yeah.
look at all their projects that are coming out. But yeah, with that, thanks for joining us, and we will see all of you next time. Have a good night.